Hey guys, so I'm here with Laura today, and say hi. And so my intention for this interview, because I always like to set a very clear intention, is to give the audience the knowing that they are worthy and loved just because they are. And I thought that was a really nice intention because this is a, a conversation about self love.
Yeah.
And yeah, so many of us don't know we're worthy and loved just because we are.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I really want the audience to sort of know that, and you're going to share how
Beautiful.
we can
I
do
love
that.
that intent. Get ready, everyone.
It's always helpful. But let me introduce you, my gorgeous lady. Not only is she fabulous, luscious hair. It's raining, right? So I've got dead straight hair. And one day I'm like, maybe one day I won't have flyaways. But it's just me and flyaways. This is just what the hair does.
So welcome.
Yeah. But no, enough about me, more about Laura. So Laura is a healer, channel, dancer, and deeply feminine embodiment. Oh, that sounds exciting. Laura laughs loudly and she is radiant joy. And all she meets. What? With all she meets. God, I don't even have my glasses on. This is helpful, guys. Helpful. And having traveled a journey from great darkness to light, now together with her husband Simon, who wasn't invited because it's a ladies' day. She supports people to heal and live in alignment with their soul's truth, true love, and joy.
Wow. Sound amazing, don't I?
You do.
I gotta live up
You
to that
are
now. No
amazing.
kidding.
But self-love is an interesting one for me because, self-love has been quite the rage in, especially in the female space. So it all started off with Cosmo going, go and get a massage and get the nails, self-love. And then it's now moved into set boundaries and know your worth. But I feel that self-love there's an essence to it, and it's so much deeper than just setting boundaries and going get your nails done. And you've had such an incredible journey to finding self-love, which is an amazing journey. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think, setting boundaries and things like that. They're also, they're beautiful parts of self-love. And as you said, like for me, because of some of the things I experienced in
Tell
my
us about that
childhood.
if you're
Okay,
comfortable sharing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So I experienced a lot of sexual trauma in my childhood. I was abducted and raped when I was 3 years old. And then, I kind of took on a lot of, that pain that I experienced in that experience and kind of then was bullied in my childhood a lot at primary school, was sexually assaulted, but more because I'd kind of taken on this feeling of unsafety very early on in my life. And so I kind of had a lot of these really challenging experiences at a young age. And so for me, like I kind of was looking for how do I love these parts of me that have been really hurt, like what kind of love are these hurt parts of me looking for? And and how can I bring them that love, that self-love? And it was really through that and this is when I was an adult that I started asking these questions. And I can talk more about the childhood experiences if you want, but
No, no, you decide what you want to share there that you think is
Oh.
relevant. Yeah, yeah.
It was really in looking for that answer for myself and then finding, like, really discovering through that, it became a spiritual journey because it was such a deep journey to find how to love these parts of me that had been really hurt, and finding, I actually am love. We are love. Like, who I am is love. And then,
So, uh, guys, I'm sorry that I have to do this, but your bangles are jingling.
oh,
Do you mind taking those off? Because I know the mic. I'm not going to edit this out, guys. I just, this is real. I just wanted to hear Laura's gold. So what I really hear from that, and I think a lot of us can resonate, is you experience a lot of trauma in life, and from that, you internalized a message about yourself, and you were, whatever that was, and maybe that was, I'm not lovable, whatever that was for you, and you attracted more of that into your life, which is almost like it reaffirms what you think about yourself, right? Because that happened at such a young age, and that, 3. Tell me, when did you, because you did mention in your 20s, you sort of, you hit the wall. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I want to sort of look for, when did you sort of go, wow, I need to stop doing what I'm doing, and then realize that it was a self-love piece, then to work on that.
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, it was in my 20s. So after I experienced the things I experienced in my childhood, I started to like repress them at quite an early age, as a lot of us do. And I kind of just tried to just do my best to function, and I tried to get good marks. I kind of really shut down. I had this kind of really big, like loud, a bit extra energy. And I kind of shut that down because I thought, maybe that's kind of subconsciously I felt like maybe that was the problem.
So did you know about the trauma you had experienced at the age of 3 when you were growing up? Did you know what had happened to you?
I'd repressed it.
Yeah, so had anyone shared that information with you, or?
So my whole family just kind of, so now everyone recognizes it, and but at the time it was just too much for everyone.
Much.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there was no support system, and so you didn't actually know what had happened, but there were the consequences of that. You were living, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I think to different degrees, maybe this is something that people experience, like a lot of us experience. Like you may not have had that same experience, but that we have things happen in our childhood and we kind of take on beliefs about ourselves. Certainly that's what happened to me. And then kind of just, life happens and we kind of, and we kind of forget that we took that on, but we still get the reflection of that, as you were saying, like that pattern showing up in our life and our relationships and things.
So what happened in your 20s? So then when you're living,
Got to my 20s and, everyone at school went to uni. So I went to uni, studied really hard, did psychology and philosophy, tried to understand, did a thesis in philosophy of mind, tried to understand from my head, which is valid and beautiful. And then I got to my late 20s and I kind of went into this, I guess we'd call it a spiritual crisis, a spiritual awakening. And I was just reconnected both with all of the trauma and those really strong emotions, and also with all of the spiritual insight and connection and love and bliss and power that I'd experienced.
What? How did that even work? Sorry. Okay. Right. Let's take a step back. Okay. Because for me, it sounds like going from a dead fish to an orgasmic fish, right? So, what's the in between? So, what happened for you in your 20s? So did you hit a wall or something? What is a spiritual awakening? How did that happen? What did that look like?
It kind of was like going from a dead fish to orgasm. I think that's why it was a crisis. It was too much for me all at once to kind of it just came. Some people have theirs nice and slowly. Like my husband had his nice and spiritual awakening. Oh, we are love. It was very powerful. But mine was like almost too much at once, and it looked like it really did look like a crisis. I was in crisis. I didn't know what was happening. I just had all these emotions. I was remembering flashbacks of the trauma.
Oh,
And at the same time, I was suddenly so connected to all of my spiritual support and the love and, all these guides and energies that had been there in my childhood, like when I'd had these experiences. And yeah, so the reason it sounds so weird and in one sense and so kind of sudden, I was just repressing everything, and then suddenly I had this, it kind of was like that. It kind of was too much for me.
so so you're living a normal life?
Yes.
There is such a thing. What was happening for you, that caused this to happen? Did something happen? Did you lose a job, or did someone kick you in the street? I don't know. Did a dog pee on you? I don't know. Was in.
Setting people off for spiritual crises.
But I just wonder what the trigger was for that. And the reason I ask, because if someone's sitting at home going, "Wow, I'd love them to," like, if something is happening for someone at home and they fucking freaking out. They're like, "Oh my god," like, "I'm having these flashbacks." I'm like, I sort of love you to share your experience, what that was, so they can go, "Oh, this may be my spiritual awakening."
It was something that I guess I'll put it this way, this is how I navigated it, and this is how I understood it. So, going back to what I experienced in my childhood, when I was raped and I had that really painful experience, I had, as part of that experience, because it was very violent, I had a powerful near-death experience. And this is gonna make sense if in a sec, in terms of the crisis. It's like, so in that near-death experience, from that, physical experience, I had this opening into, like, I crossed over, I had this almost, in some ways, quite classical near-death experience. I had a choice if I wanted to come back. But what I experienced in that was, and this is in some ways a little bit beyond words, but just how loved we are and just how connected we are to everything, and that everything is love. And just, it's something that it's not, if someone tells you something, you kind of remember it and maybe it applies in your life. But if you experience something, in an embodied way, if you have that experience, like, you just have that with you for the rest of your life.
I hear so.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that's the experience I had. I was literally like immersed, like my whole being, in this field of just love for everything. No part of me left out, no part of anyone left out, no part of anything left out. And I realized that that was the truth, because in that place, in spirit, when I crossed over, that just is the truth. You just know that to be the truth. There's no, doubt is included in the love there, but it's just a part of the love, it's not disconnected.
You make it sound so delicious. But don't I have to throw myself off a cliff or something? What's a near-death experience I can experience? If it was just mild ways, just like almost there.
I know. And then, of course, I chose to come back, and there's part of me that's like, okay, yep. No, no, but I was very excited to come back. Um, and to share about that, so that love was with me in the crisis. That's what,
Yeah.
that knowing beyond words, beyond the head, beyond concept. Nothing wrong with the head and concepts. They're included, in love. But yeah, beyond that, like in my body, in my cells, like I had that. And that's what really got me through that experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in your 20s, how did you then go from, how did you go from life is not going that great for me, I don't feel good about myself, to, wow, it's all about self-love. And then maybe, was it reconnecting to that love that you'd originally felt?
Yeah. From the point where I had that experience where I was in crisis, and through the love that I knew I was, and through all the, like, I also had kind of spiritual guides and allies, which is just an extension of the fact that we're so loved, like, that came back to me in that crisis from that early experience. Through having that experience, and when I did come out the other side of it, I just realized, like, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to do. Yeah. This is what is true about us as humans, and it sounds kind of like, in some ways, I had this really extreme experience. And I don't know, maybe to some people it's relatable and in, different aspects of it. But the thing that it really taught me was that we as humans, like all of us, like it actually took me back to the common humanity. Like it took me to the center of something in myself that's in all of us, in my experience. And just this knowing that we're so loved. And then I wanted to share that with everyone.
Oh, quite a journey. You could have just, like, written a blog or something. It's like, like, I don't know. It is incredible, and so many spiritual teachers, and which I would class you as, and healers have had an insanely difficult childhood or event that has really sort of catapulted them out of their body, into consciousness. And
Yeah.
it seems to be quite a common thread. I just don't know what source is up to there, but you never know. I love that, and thank you for sharing that. And yeah, because like we've all experienced trauma at some stage, and it's not it's never a competition or to diminish anyone's stuff, but also understanding there's real value in that trauma. It almost sounds counterintuitive to think of it that way, but there is a value.
Absolutely value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm just making sure my
Making
mic.
mics there. No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
picking up on a.
So weird. Like a video podcast is challenging. I find just like, am I looking good? Is my mic working? Well, if you just had a mic, it would be easier. But that's why we don't go for easy. We go for interesting. So what I really would like to look at now is how would I know or someone know that they don't have self-love? Because what I want to know, like, if I'm eating that chocolate and my body's saying no, and I'm still, am I sabotaging myself? Is that not having self-love? But how do we know we don't have self-love?
It's an interesting thing because I feel like for me, like love should feel not should, but should feel easy. Like I feel like, that experience I had when I was a child and now that I'm kind of aware of all the time, like that we are this love, we're so loved. It's almost like it's unconditional. So for me, love can just be a choice in any moment to move towards, oh, I'm going to love myself a bit more here. Like, how can I love myself a bit more here? And so for in the example of like, if I'm eating chocolate or something, we can make choices. We can kind of feel the balance as I know, but it's.
Oh, I'm gonna show good thing.
It's a good example because we've all had that experience, right? Like with different things, like all of us. That's so relatable. But you can kind of feel like, is it loving for me to do this? Or maybe it's loving for the part of me that's just needing some comfort and support right now. And maybe on balance, it is loving, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other side, maybe my body's been under a bit of stress lately. I've been doing this a lot. Maybe it's not loving. You can kind of feel.
So you use that word feel. So first of all, I think well, let me see. How do I know when I'm not experiencing self-love? One, when I don't stand up for myself. I really when people are so rude to me. And one thing that I would like to do is I'm very introspective. So I'm always like, how have I attracted this into my life? Why, what vibration am I vibing at to attract this? But sometimes people are just fucking assholes.
Like you should say fuck off.
You just
From a place of love.
Yeah. So fuck off. But then I internalize it so much because it's me. But sometimes, right, that yeah, for me, it generally is when I throw daggers at myself. Like, why are you not where you're supposed to be? Why are you not performing? Lots of shame when I feel shame. When I need help and I don't ask for help, I implode. That's when I know I'm not feeling self-love. So, do you have any more examples other than my fabulous ones?
Yeah, no, I think those are good. Those are like relatable, again, like relatable examples. And I think this is why this piece around like you don't have to try for self-love. Like you don't need to be like it's just like even I think a good place to start is like, okay, there's all this going on. I've got all these patterns, like most of us do at this time on the planet in consciousness, because we're becoming more aware of them. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not something that's gone wrong. It's something that we've come here from my perspective, you don't have to agree with this, but we've come here to kind of take on these patterns and then to transform them and to realize, at this time on the planet that we are love, that we are, these beautiful souls. And of course, like as we come into alignment with that, we're going to become more aware of all of this kind of challenge and pain that we have, that we're all carrying. And so I just want to honor that, the kind of the experience or the process of growing into self-love sometimes, and I've had this experience as well, can kind of feel like I should be doing this well as well.
Yeah, just another thing. Mindset, weight, face, self-love.
That's kind of, um, and and so it's sometimes a good place to start if you have that. And it's often those of us who are kind of, quite, we like to do things well and we like to be successful and we like to put our all into things. And, it's like we come to self-love and we come to, personal development in general. And it can feel like, okay, I want to do this well. I have to try and I have to, like, am I doing, and like that can be beautiful and it's included in the love. But for me, it's coming from this place of, to start with, just an awareness that self-love is unconditional. So where we are is perfect. We're perfect. This is perfect. This moment is perfect. Giving ourselves space around what's going on, giving ourselves a chance to feel maybe what's going on for ourselves. Just feel, okay, I've got this going on, I've got that going on. And just coming back to, that's okay. Like it's part of the love. It's part of why I'm here. It's part of what I'm here to feel.
I actually feel that so deeply as you say that. Yeah. And so we're talking about feeling and emotions are part of self-love because we do certainly live in the society that worships the head, the intellect, everything's head. Even now people intellectualize feelings. Like I did a workshop a few years ago now, and I say, how do you know how you're feeling in traffic? Well, how do you feel when you're sitting in traffic? And people go, yeah, I feel stressed, but how do you know that you're stressed? So what they were really asking was what happens in your body? Like, are your teeth getting, like, what's the embodiment of that stress, right? Because we're so intellectualized things that we've forgotten, wow, where is it in the body? We've sort of cut ourselves off. So to feel self-love, we have to feel into the emotion, but sometimes I just don't want to feel that emotion. And that's why I have chocolate to suppress it. But how do I do that? How do I feel into an emotion or a trigger that I don't actually want to feel into because I'm shit scared because I don't feel safe enough or I just don't want to because I've suppressed that shit for a reason, right? So how do what's the practice I need to do to be able to sit with that emotion and allow it to come through so I can then experience it as part of self-love?
Yeah, beautiful. So for me, it's just allowing the emotion, even if, so for example, if you're kind of like, it doesn't feel safe to feel this emotion, I don't want to, it doesn't feel safe. I think the first step there, which is like something that a lot of people experience, I think the first step there is to have a safe environment. Like, so that is the first step because you don't want to be kind of like trying to crowbar your way into like emotions. And it's the same thing. It's a similar thing for me. It has to do with like, there's a lot in our society, which is fine and beautiful, of kind of like pushing and overriding. And it's part of this idea of doing things well is kind of like, it's this kind of like, and then you do it. And whereas for me, the experience of self-love and the experience of welcoming emotions and connecting, to our body and more deeply to our emotions again, it's an experience of actually taking away a lot of that stuff. So the place to start, if you're feeling like, I don't want to feel this, it feels either overwhelming or not safe, is to start right there. And it's kind of a similar thing that I was saying about self-love. It's like, start right there and just like, it's okay to feel like I don't want to feel my emotions. Let's just sit with that. Like, let's just sit with that. I don't have to feel my emotions right now. I can just feel my fear of feeling them, which is an emotion, right? Like, is I can just sit with that for like the next 3 years if I need to. Like, do you know what I mean? But the paradox is, if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to just give it all the space and time that it actually needs, that's when it often shifts. That's the paradox, right? Because it knows that it's safe to really go, this is how this part of me is feeling. I'm not going to be kind of made to do anything that doesn't feel loving for my subconscious, for my emotional subconscious body. This is an actual safe space. And often the final thing I'll say about this is when we're kids and we take on these emotions, it's not a safe space like that. So there is this kind of like there can be this kind of like jarring and overriding. And so of course, when we look to turn back towards that, the last thing we want to feel is pressure to kind of, get into these emotions and like, let's go for the deepest one first, So part of us is like protecting us, right? Like, which is totally understandable, and there'll be gold in those protective layers. So yeah, just they actually want to tell you and give you their gifts like first before you receive the deeper gifts from the deeper emotions. So yeah, it's just that really kind of gently and taking away the need to try or push or anything like that.
Yeah, I love that. It's about allowing yourself the space to feel emotion. And I had I had a tumultuous childhood, and I also had suppressed a lot of stuff. And it was only when I then got into a relationship with Doug, then my husband, that I felt safe, truly safe for the first time. And my emotions came out, but it wasn't pretty. I dreamed of the week. I wish it was, but it wasn't. But I wish that I didn't wish. Sorry, I I dreamt that demons were coming from under my bed and were coming to steal me. I was terrified of the dark. Like, I swear to you, I could not walk from here to there without the light on, like to the bathroom. It was a meter and a half. It was just like for a very long time, I thought there were demons in my bedroom, and I couldn't fall asleep. I had these. Sometimes it's not all gonna be sunshine and roses, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did she?
yeah. 100%.
And the reason I share that story is 'cause um, I sort of wanna say like, I was safe, and and Doug very kindly put lights up everywhere, and it was awesome. I felt like such a dickhead, like, I'm a grown-ass woman, I'm a grown-ass woman, I can't even walk across the passageway to the toilet, right? But it was just and I didn't actually know what was going on. I just
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so much here, I'm like, "What the fuck?" Right? But yeah, and then, so also understanding that that kind of stuff, that processing can be a bit like, woohoo! But it's okay.
Mm.
It's like giving yourself permission to make it okay.
Yes. Yeah. For me, like obviously I had like thank you for sharing, like I resonate. I had a really disorientating kind of opening experience with a lot of my kind of inner demons as well, like in trauma. And yeah, so that's why I'm so passionate about providing um safe spaces and also kind of offering that you can have a safe experience. Because the more for me that like you have the resources and the tools and the capacity um, to welcome those emotions that have been suppressed in a safe and loving way, then kind of the less they can get kind of squashed outside wave and what's here under your bed or like, you know.
And also it stops you from resuppressing them, right?
Exactly.
Which is really dangerous. And that's why, and it's interesting as you were saying, and I just thought to myself, gosh, when I was going through that stuff, I didn't even know someone like you existed. One, I didn't know what was going on. So I went and I saw a counselor she wasn't terrible, but she wasn't the right solution.
Yeah, I get that. As soon as you pull the face on, I've had that. I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you're not the right
Which is
solution.
valid and beautiful.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, she did her best, but I think she re-traumatized me in a different way. Um, and so, like, interesting because so rarely do we go, oh, hang on, I need some help with the self-love piece. I need some help with allowing this to come through, and we don't hear about your work because whatever, it's the first thing is head, psychologist, counselor, not the feminine, not the feel into it, the feminine aspect. Because when you talk about it, it's the softness. It's not the hard. Oh my god! It's just like,
Yeah.
is it? Have I got that right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason that I do that is because that's what's worked for me.
Yeah.
Like that's what's called me home to myself is like that's who I am on some deep level. And it's a way for me to feel So when I'm like welcoming how I'm actually feeling in the moment, this is maybe going to sound strange, but maybe you can feel it. Like I'm just really welcoming exactly how I am. I'm in the power seat in this way, like when in my body, like not just, including my head, but really feeling my body. That's when I'm connected to my full power as well as a person.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, I'm gonna have to come and do a course with you because I don't know how to sit in that. I'm like, you look so comfortable. I'm like, huh. My head's going, how is she doing that? I wonder. I'm like, what's the process?
It's just love.
Be that easy, can it? But it's funny when you just said that because I thought to myself, she's returning to who she is, which is love. And it's not something you can intellectualize. And I think you've often said that there's no words to this. There aren't any words. It's an essence and a feeling. And that's why I think it's so hard to understand because it's not an understanding, it's an embodiment.
Yes.
And you have to experience it and go through it to come on the is it coming out on the other side or is it just to let go of everything that's stopping you from because we always love, but as you said, it's about the letting go of everything that's stopping us from being that love.
Yes, that's the embodied process for me is so, the more I've welcomed, these layers of emotions in my body, the more permission I've given myself over time, over years of it's welcome, whatever arises. And just like that radical self-love.
When we originally spoke, and I really wanted to grab onto that because you and Simon, your husband, work with people to help them do this, but I do want to sort of make it a little bit practical. And you did sort of mention that, and you'll have to correct me if I'm got this wrong, but you guys have identified that an emotion is often attached to a belief. Can you give us a couple of examples of, what emotions are attached to what beliefs so we can sort of get an understanding of what that is?
Yeah, beautiful. So, for us, this is where a kind of spiritual perspective kind of informs or for us gives more insight or more kind of access to what's going on with emotions. So for us, emotions, if I have like a negative emotion, and just to be clear, negative emotion doesn't mean like bad emotion, just means like a mechanically negative, constrictive emotion in my body. Like,
So when you say a negative emotion is constrictive, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
pulls you in?
constrictive, it's
Yeah.
got a negative kind of definition, like I'm bad or wrong or something bad or wrong
Right.
or whatever flavor. So it's just mechanically negative in that sense, not integrative and it's more constrictive. And,
Okay.
so yeah, so it's not nothing bad about negative emotion, but negative emotion like anger, sadness, fear, all these emotions that we recognize.
Shame is my
Shame, oh,
worst.
shame
Ugh.
for sure. Like that, we maybe don't prefer on some level to feel like. So if we have an emotion like that in our body, it's for us, it's a message for us from our soul, from a place that we're not maybe in alignment with the truth of who we are, like the truth of our soul and the truth of the love that we are. And so it's an opportunity if we have an emotion come up to kind of find out and first by welcoming it. So we have a process for welcoming it, just really welcoming it because we've been taught a lot to kind of either analyze it as we've covered or whatever, override it, but just really welcome that emotion. And for example, if it's sadness, we found that with sadness it's got a cluster of beliefs. So every emotion has a belief that it's holding on to that we've taken on, often in our childhood, sometimes, before born, but often in our childhood. So with sadness, it's often beliefs around like, I'm not lovable, I'm disconnected from love. And then as you can imagine, sadness, grief, as you can imagine, there's lots of nuance in every different embodiment with where someone's taken that on, the flavor of it, because we can be disconnected from different kinds of love or, disconnected in different ways from love. So, for example, someone maybe in preschool was, they were like left out or something and they felt like I'm So taking on a belief like, oh, I'm disconnected from love in a social situation in this way, from the love of other humans or something. Someone else might have, you get the idea, might have taken it on, I'm disconnected from the love of all that is, from the love of spirit, like there's only physical reality, and they kind of feel this feeling of sadness and grief around that. And often they're kind of unconscious or semi-conscious, these beliefs, right? They're not just head beliefs, they're kind of beliefs like the patterning of our consciousness. And so, yeah, when we feel an emotion, it's an opportunity for us to really feel it and really in an embodied way, like really welcome it. That's the first piece. Because you can kind of know that you have something that you took on in your childhood and then do affirmations at that head level, and that can be helpful. But it's when you're really in an embodied way and connected to that emotion.
Well, your body has its own intelligence and it remembers stuff, right?
It's holding things.
It's holding. So when you say embody, would that mean, because I experience emotions in different parts of my body, like, there's, I don't know, stomach and, places. So when you say embody, is it like feeling where that emotion is? Is that what it means?
Yeah, that's right. So just welcoming it, and we go into more detail with this, but the thing is just the neutral, safe, like loving, welcoming space. And sometimes when people first come into that space and you're in a session or whatever, or whatever context, and if they're like, oh, okay, say I've got this shame or this grief and I'm feeling it here, and I can just welcome it, and it's safe to feel it. And sometimes, and like, just sit with it. You don't need to do anything. Like sometimes to help people stay with it, we'll say, is it moving around? Does it have a color? Just to help people. And those answers don't matter so much, but it's just to help people kind of just be neutrally present with it without kind of trying to amenize it. No, I think I've got this because my mum said this to me when I was
Yeah. Try to find the reason.
We've been taught to do that, right? We're often being taught to do that, which is
I said it doesn't matter. The color and the shape doesn't matter.
not really. It's just keeping people with it. Like,
because when they say to me, "What color is it?" I'm like, "Oh, is it blue? No, is it red? No, is it green? Oh no, is it red? Oh, no." Yeah, thank God it doesn't matter. It's all
you've got a stronger emotion over here, which is panic, but like
Oh
color.
my God, what shape is it? Oh my, this is how heavy I am.
It's so welcome. So welcome.
That's it. You welcome everything.
Yeah.
And so and then you process it, and then you process it, and then do you let it go?
Sometimes it just goes because the part of us now that knows love as an adult maybe knows we're safe, like depending on which emotion you're working with. Like when that emotion is, we're really present with it, it kind of just automatically just releases, because you're just like, oh, well, that's just obviously not true. Like you don't have to kind of engage with the belief, because your consciousness just automatically is like, oh, that's just not true anymore. Like it just releases. But sometimes if it's really kind of like, there's sometimes people have beliefs, and it can be around any kind of belief, but this part of you is like really holding on to, no, I have to believe there's something wrong with me, that emotion. And that's when understanding what it's believing, like asking this part of you what it's believing is true about itself.
So you actually ask
Yeah.
that part, what's going on? It sounds so woo-woo, but it is woo-woo. But again, no, because your body has intelligence, right? So again, it's getting out of the head and just listening to the body and the spirit and the consciousness. Because they always say, the wanky thing they always go, you have all the answers inside you. Yes, you do. Right, and I think that's what you're referring to. Like, it's easy to say those words, but to really listen into those. I'm not suggesting I know how to do this, but it feels amazing. Yeah, and so then just releasing, and releasing, and releasing, and releasing.
Yeah.
And then until it's gone, and we turn back to that love and light. Is that
Yeah, you can bring in, so for example, a lot of really juicy stuff around unworthiness, for example, like for me. And um some of those like parts of me from when I was a child, like they really believed that I was unworthy in a certain way. And so they didn't just like straight away release, for example. And so what you do in that situation where it's like you've been sitting with the anger or the unworthiness or the shame for like quite a long time, and it's like, how strong now out of 10? 10. And it's not kind of dissipating, right? So then you go, oh, this is super welcome. Is it okay, so what is this part of you believing? And that's when you can kind of go, okay, like I've got this belief that I'm not enough because, for whatever reason I had as a kid, I took on this belief that I'm not enough. Okay. Just welcoming that. So then just welcoming that. That's it. And then when you welcome that, fast forward, we'll fast forward for the purpose of the video, then you kind of ask it like, okay, so like this part of you that's believing not enough, and you kind of bring in your higher, like loving adult, whatever part of you is like connected to spirituality, love, whatever's true. If you're just your loving adult, if you're a parent, what you would say if it was your little one that came to you, whatever that loving higher part of you. So do you think it has to be now true that this part of you is not like lovable in this way, is not worthy because of this and this and this? Well, maybe not. And then you kind of bring that part of you to just be with the part of you that's feeling unworthy in that way. And just like, hey, like it's okay that you felt this way. So it's really good with fear, this one as well. Like it's really good. It's so okay that you felt really scared as a little one in this way, and it's understandable. Of course you felt fear. It's like now I'm an adult, I had these things I could put in place, you know, it's or you say it's not true that you need to feel unworthy. Like you can kind of like, now this is this way, and now I know this about us and how lovable we are and about what you experience in that situation. And if you want, you can let this go, and there's no rush. But here's a different perspective now from the loving adult that I am, that can kind of come in where there was no other adults at the time, maybe when you were a little one, and kind of give you that loving or that safety or whatever it is, that loving perspective. And so that's the way that you kind of allow that part of you to kind of come back into to release, and to kind of come back into alignment with what's actually true, right? Because it's true that we can be infinitely safe and loved and enough and free. It's like, but we've come into this physical reality and taken on all this stuff, and it's a lot.
Yeah. God, it's a lot. Like, you talk to the lot. Like,
That's
it's
right. It's like a lot of us do.
It's so beautiful and encouraging because I do NLP. We do have something called parts integration, and it's the same sort of script as you said. You bring your child, and your adult comes and speaks to the child and says to the child, what is it that you need right now to let go of this? And then once they have a conversation, they like you literally, it's a form of hypnosis. And then once that's done, you hug and you integrate. And that's very similar to what you're saying, just letting go and choosing to know that that's not true anymore. And there's also really, I heard they say it's not trauma that happens to you, it's having someone to bear witness to their trauma, and an empathetic witness. It was something like it's having an empathetic witness to acknowledge what happened. And sometimes, as you mentioned, like if no one's there to acknowledge what's happened to you, you implode and internalize. And so when you do come back to the emotion and that instant or whatever that belief is, and you're like, I empathize, and I see you and I acknowledge what happened, and it's okay to let that go now. Sometimes that's what we need to, just to let it go, to say, actually it did happen, and it happened, and it's okay. And so they call it an empathetic witness. Something, yeah, I don't know that much about it, but I remember hearing a little podcast. So I think that's like, and so just being a witness to yourself, acknowledging to yourself is just such a beautiful gift to give yourself, to stop running. Because I could just speak for myself. Like I run, and I'm running away from myself, from my own emotions, from my own fear of feeling something, my own fear of facing myself, because I've made myself wrong. Like things are not going the way I want them to go. And because I'm told by all these people, it's not their fault, but I've internalized those messages that I need to be in this space
Well,
right
I
now.
am. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm fucking blaming everyone but myself. And then going, I'm not there. How embarrassing. And then this is what goes on in my head, right? But it does. And then just allowing myself to go. And what I kept hearing and what really resonates with me is like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because Michael Singer's work on this is like, the reason we want to accumulate and rush it's because we're not okay. And we're trying to get everything, whatever job, work, whatever it is, to be okay. But until we sit and go, why am I not okay? We will never find the solution, because the solution is literally in the why am I not okay? Exactly like you were saying, sitting in that and just letting it go. Just letting it go. And having a guide like you and Simon to do that for me, is essential. I mean, I think if we could do it ourselves, we would. That's always my theory. But just to have someone hold a loving space for you, I think that's just. I mean, there's no words to describe that, but just to be in, it's almost like a womb, to be in the womb and to be safe and to be present and to be held through the process is such a beautiful way to do it, instead of just being ripped out and smacked on the ass like they do these days. It's so traumatic. So I love that. Is there anything else you would like to share around this topic before we wrap things up?
I think I would say to start where you are. Like, even if you are, because I feel like, a lot of people, like, you're not alone, like, a lot of people are kind of running, and there's a lot going on right now in society. Like, a lot of people are kind of feel like maybe if they turn inwards and actually, like, turn towards that emotion, maybe it will be unsafe, or maybe they'll discover that they are actually not good enough, like, which is never gonna be, like, I promise you, it's never gonna be sure. But I think that's part of the fear is to get away from those things because maybe they're true, or maybe there's something in there that isn't lovable. And it's just cannot be the case, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, no matter, like, how parts of you are feeling about yourself. That love that is infinite is literally infinite. So if you exist, it includes you, like every part of you. So, even if you are like running and avoiding and 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 not kind of doing it right or everything, like, that's lovable. Like, that's lovable. Like, you don't even need to do anything that I've, suggested from this video. You don't even need to, you know, improve in any way. You can. It gets easier if you choose to kind of move towards self-love. It actually gets easier. It gets lighter. There's freedom and joy in it. But where you are is lovable. Just where you are. And so that's the experience I had when I was a little child, and I was having that really, really challenging experience as a little one. And I felt that love and that okayness, like, just like a note, like, I don't know if this makes sense, but it's just like, ding, just through everything. And so then when I came back into my body and kind of into this world again where I was bullied and you had to try and be good at things in primary school and remember math and, like, try and make people like you, and that note was like through everything. And then when I was in my crisis and, you know, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what's happening. I'm so disorientated. It's so scary." That note was just through everything. And then here in this room, talking to you and talking to these beautiful people, just that message is what, like, wants to come through me, is like what I'm passionate in my heart about sharing, is that you're enough right where you are. Like, that's self-love. That's the start of self-love, is to remember that, and that you can relax deeper into that. That's the place to start.
I love that. I so appreciate you sharing your story. And I so appreciate that the work that you do. and you're sharing, from the heart. I think that's just so beautiful. So thank you for doing that. And I just really encourage everyone listening to this to just if you're going to take anything away, as Laura said, start from where you are and know that you are love. It's not, you don't have to find it, you don't have to look for it, because you are. And just decide. Even if you can't feel that now, just decide. It starts with a decision sometimes. Just decide that you are. And then anything, what they say, decision is that decisiveness, right? Like you're cutting everything out. So fucking decide. Do it! And then, and let it go. Laura, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.